Now, welcome back to Skyzone's channel. We've gotten a lot of questions with regards to digital marketing, and one of the most pertinent questions we keep being asked is when it comes to the domain registration of your website, what factors do you consider in terms of choosing a perfect domain name? Sorry for this. So I would like just to discuss some factors that you also need to consider when you're thinking about registering your domain name. And for those who don't understand what a domain name is, a domain name is like an address through which people visit you. Now, when it comes to the online platform, traditionally people have those addresses. Like you go to a certain building, a certain door for you to get to a certain office or a certain house. So when it comes to the online platform, your domain name is that address through which people will find your website. And of course, we all know that through your website, they'll be able to get all the information they need about your company, your business, or your brand. Now, the first thing you need to consider is the extensions of your domain. So there are people who choose .com, .net, .org, .biz. There is even .club, .space. In Kenya, we have .co.ke. So some people ask which is the best. Now, if you ask any layman, they'll say they only know of .coms. It's rare that they tell you we know of a .biz or a .net. So psychologically, when people are trying to search or rather to type a domain name, for example, you've given them a name like Skyzone, for example, they would want to type skyzone.com. They will not go to skyzone.biz or skyzone.net. So one of the most popular extensions that we always recommend people to use is a .com, because psychologically that was the first extension that came into existence, and people always refer to online sites by that particular extension. Now, when it comes to the second thing that you need to consider is, do you want a brandable name or a generic name? Now, when you're talking about a brandable name, it does not necessarily need to be something related to what you do. For example, if you take an example of Safaricom, Safaricom is in mobile telephony. A brandable name for them is Safaricom. A generic name when it comes to Safaricom is mobile telephony. So you don't find that their domain name is mobiletelephony.com because of one reason. There are so many mobile network operators who can actually choose that particular domain and just vary it a bit. So they can have mobile telephony Kenya, somebody else can have mobile telephony solutions. So it's difficult to brand yourself as the game changer in that particular sector. So we always advise people to come up with brandable domain names. So if your business name, for example, for us, our brandable name is Skyzone. Of course, you're in digital marketing, we have the option of saying digital marketing Kenya, but chances are there is somebody else who's registered, for example, digitalmarketingsolutions.com, somebody else has registered digitalagency.com. So it becomes difficult to distinguish. That's why we prefer having a brandable name like skyzone.co.ke. So when you're choosing your domain name, also consider whether you want a brandable or a generic name. Brandable is always better. The other factor to consider is make sure your domain name is short. We always recommend between 6 to 14 characters. Don't go beyond 14 characters. If your business name is long, there are people whose business names are, if you combine their business name, it comes to around 20, 40 characters. So always make sure that you shorten that particular business name. If you want to go with that particular name as your domain name, make it between 6 to 14 characters. I'll still use an example of Skyzone. Skyzone, I think, is around 7 characters, which is actually within the 6 to 14 characters. So try a way in which you can always limit the number of characters of your domain, because that brings me to the next factor to consider. You should have something that is easy to remember, that is easy to pronounce, that is easy to even type. Consider the person who's going to type that in their computer and look at what they'll be thinking. If you have a 40-character domain, chances are they will not even get to the end of it when they're typing. So find something that is easy to type, easy to pronounce, and easy to remember. The other factor is try to avoid hyphens and numbers in your domain name. Now there are people who, like for example, I'll give an example. If Facebook, the popular social networking site, had a hyphen in their name, for example, face-book, chances are, in terms of explanation, it will be difficult for them to even get people to get through to their domain, because they have to explain our domain name is face-book. So just try to avoid hyphens, try to avoid numbers, and just make them be letters, and make sure they are short. Try to also include keywords that are related to what your website or your business is about. So you can have something like digital agency, as I said when it came to generic, but it's good to have like a keyword of what you're doing as a prefix to your domain. So you can have digital Kenya or digital village or something related to what you offer. That is also another factor to consider to come up with a great domain name. Another factor, which is very key, is you need to consider long-term over short-term. Now let's assume you've started a business today. I'll give an example of Mama Mboga. You've created a business and you want a website. So you come up with a domain name, for example, mamamboga.com. Then later on, you expand to a supermarket that sells other things apart from just the mboga. Chances are you'll have to buy or register a new domain, because now your scope has actually gotten bigger. So we always advise people to look at the domain that you're choosing in terms of long-term. What is your long-term strategy? What are you planning to do long-term? So that you don't limit yourself to short-term goals. So if you're a Mama Mboga and you're planning to do a supermarket in the next few years, it's better you register that way before, as you're thinking in terms of the long-term. The other factor to consider is also check whether that particular domain name is trademarked. You might find that in your country that domain name is not trademarked, but if you go to a different country, chances might be that it is actually trademarked. So go to websites that can show you if a domain name is trademarked. And finally, if you found it difficult to come up with a domain name, always go to online domain name generators. They'll give you keywords. You just type in the keyword you want, and it will give you options to choose from. So these are just some of the things you need to factor in when you're coming up with a domain name. And Skyzone Communications is willing to help in that process, as well as help you register your domain name. So contact us. I think our numbers are 0797 333 251 or 0737 141 968. You can always find us on social media, Skyzone KE on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And finally, we are located in Kitengela at Unique Park Building, 4th floor, suite number 45. So you can always find us anytime, any day. We have a 24-hour working schedule here. You can always call us anytime you want. So thank you so much. Until we meet next time.